Hey guys, here we are. If you want to see quite an amazing picture, just one look at the water vapor imagery, which I'm going to pull up shortly, shows you the extent of the old remains of Irma as it moves into the Midwest and Ohio Valley. Just simply impressive as it scoops up some of that dry air from the western U.S. and also scooping up some of the tropical air too, and here's what it looks like. I mean, that's just spectacular, and I want to try to put together maybe like a 3 or 4 day loop of this because it's probably just amazing. But you can see, well, we've got moisture kind of feeding back in over the Rockies because of the effect of monsoon thunderstorms going up during the afternoon, so that's replacing some of the moisture that we had. But earlier we had dry air across the central U.S., and that's what we're seeing moving around the south side of Irma there, and the remains of it located in northern Mississippi or Tennessee. And then on the other side, huge northwest or northern and then western traversal of moisture around the north side of the storm there, and just wrapping up that moisture. Just spectacular. Let me see what it looks like on the surface data, and we'll see if we can pick it out. This is mostly an upper level system. We're not seeing much of a reflection of this at the surface, but let's see, what can we determine? Well, it looks like the center of the circulation is about 20 miles southeast of Memphis, maybe 30 miles, right in this area right here. And in that core, we've got about 63 degrees there. Very rainy, and that's due to the infusion of all that dry air, wet bulbing, and evaporative cooling taking place. And then where we're at in Texas, still kind of warm. I had to shut off the air conditioner. We just have not had some of the cold air that they've got there in Mississippi. You can see 57. That's probably the cold spot right there at Jackson. And it's been in the 60-degree range pretty much all day there. Okay, onward to the charts. NHC showing Irma with a 1004 millibar center, moving northwest at 20 miles an hour, and post-tropical there. And no more forecast motion on that. That's pretty much gone. And now we're looking at Jose, located southwest of Bermuda there, and that's forecast to recurve pretty quickly as it encounters the prevailing westerlies up to the north. Currently, Jose is a Cat 1 storm, so not much of anything going on there right now. Not much going on across the U.S. convectively. Cold air pretty much covering the eastern U.S. there, and we've just got the usual late summer thunderstorms going across the mountains, and maybe a little bit along the leading edge of that cold front coming out of Canada. And let's look at the surface chart. This is from earlier today. And we can see the circulation of Irma there, kind of taking on frontal characteristics. And we're gradually eroding that cold air mass that's centered across the northeastern U.S. We see the arrival of some Pacific cold air, pushing it into British Columbia there, and that's a big 1030 millibar high in the Gulf of Alaska. And other than that, it is pretty quiet. 850 millibar flow this morning, looking like this. And this begins to sample the lower depths of the circulation of the remnants of Irma there. 850 is up at 5,000 feet, and when we go up to 700 and 500, we're picking up pretty good circulation there. Still 60 knots up there at 18,000 feet. And then we start to see it disappear there at 200 millibars, but we do have, looks like a subtropical jet kind of arcing around the south side of that circulation there. Polar front jet well to the north up there in Canada. So this is definitely kind of a late summer pattern. Okay, here's the visible imagery, not much to see. Getting dark there, so we'll look at the infrared. And there's a look at what things look like. Definitely a mid-level system there, showing hardly any cold air. Even in the most overcast parts of this, we're only seeing some darker blue colors there. So it's kind of a warm cloud top there. And then when we look out over Kentucky, Tennessee, and Alabama, cloud top's a lot warmer. So this is a lot of stratocumulus and a little bit of nimbostratus across the Memphis area there. Okay, then we'll look at the thickness. We're not going to see a whole lot going on there, just the cold pool. There it is, centered across Mississippi. And the main polar front located well up to the north there with that polar front jet. So I would probably place that cold front maybe something like this through the Portland area. And then probably something like that right there. So just a funnel system draped across Ontario and southern Manitoba and Saskatchewan like that. So that's the pattern we have this evening. And let's see what we're going to look like over the next week. We can track the remnants of the circulation by looking at the 700 millibar pattern. That's probably going to sample some of the strongest portions of Irma there. So there we go. There's the 700 millibar chart. And over the next day, we're just going to see that spin up into Indiana. And you can see the circulation diminish quite a bit as it moves into Ohio early on Thursday. And then it looks like it opened up there for just a minute. And there we go. Finally, it opens up for good Thursday night. And at that point, that's going to be pretty much the end of Irma. And big changes out to the west. Look at that up at 700 millibars. We've got a mid-level jet coming out of the Rockies right there. So we'll go down to 850 millibars and sample that. So we'll go just a little bit lower here. All right, let me see what we got going on in chat. Kind of a quiet night here. Everybody, I'm sure, taking a break from the weather. We've got Carl Berghoff, Tree Nelson, Electric Dog, and Ron Chalfant. Ryan Toomey is back to the grind. Veo Joe is here. Burl H, Alexi. Ryan is returning people from shelters back to area drop-off locations. Carl Berghoff playing Madden 08 there. Sounds pretty good there. First relaxation in quite a few days. David Moore is with us, and David Holcomb. Kevin McKinney. Ryan says 55% of people in Florida still without power. And that's amazing to think of the numbers. That's going to be up in the millions. People just, I guess, surviving with flashlights and candles at this hour. So it does kind of make me feel fortunate here. And in some respects, it's a kind of a reminder why it's good to get out of these landfall situations, because afterwards it is definitely not pleasant being without power overnight. Even just basic comfort, warm air in the rooms, you can't circulate it. You can open the windows, but then you have mosquitoes coming in. So, yeah, usually if you can stay with friends or relatives away from these landfall areas, that's usually the best alternative. Heavy flooding in Central Florida and North Florida is still making things difficult. And Ryan says fuel is scarce, but coming back slowly. Wow, remember 2 weeks ago, we were dealing with those fuel shortages here in Texas and people loading up buckets of fuel. And that was kind of ridiculous. We don't have any fuel problems here at all in our part of Texas. I'd imagine some of those hoarders there probably regretting their decisions. Carl Berghoff is a Packers fan. 85 Bears were the best. Crew's working hard around the clock there in Florida where Ryan is. The state of Georgia is in critical conditions there from Irma. Yeah, that wind really came pretty far inland there and did a number on the state there. Okay, so we'll just look at the 850 millibar chart right there. And looks like the circulation tracking over Indiana during the early morning on Thursday. And we've got a little bit of cyclogenesis up in the Dakotas on Thursday. So that'll bring some of this cool air southward. And wow, look at that. Just almost out of nowhere, we've got a low-level jet just popping up there early on Thursday. So the previous day it looked like this, hardly anything going on. And there's that low-level jet getting established out ahead of this frontal system in the Dakotas. And that's going to be the pattern right there. Likely with this low-level jet and the influx of moisture from the Gulf, probably rain chances going up in the Dakotas Thursday and Friday here. So we may be back to kind of a stormy pattern in the Midwest and parts of the northern and central plains here. Okay, then we'll just switch off to the GFS and we'll look at the overall pattern up at 200 millibars. And here's the chart starting out tonight. Polar front jet way up to the north there. There's the remnants of Irma. So as the week goes on, polar front jet stays up in Canada. A lot of ridging over the Great Lakes, so it'll be a little bit warm around Thursday. This does show where the cold air is. See how that troughing over the Pacific Northwest? That's going to be an area of cold air coming out of the Pacific, where we showed that front earlier in the Gulf of Alaska. So that's going to be moving in, crossing Idaho around Friday or Saturday. And we see that flow getting started up across Texas. 200 millibars, this may be the subtropical jet. I think the main polar front jet is still well up to the north. But things definitely getting very dynamic out towards the weekend and just afterwards. And wow, look at that. That's probably a subtropical jet there. We've got the anticyclonic flow. In fact, it looks like the subtropical high centered right across Corpus Christi and Brownsville there. And polar front jet coming on shore. So next week will look a lot different with this polar jet coming on shore. And we're really digging that trough in there across the Rockies Thursday and Friday. And this is going to mean chances of severe weather going up later next week, around the 20th or 21st. So we'll keep an eye on this as that comes out of the Rockies there. So a good chance of severe weather, likely in the Texas Panhandle, West Kansas, and possibly spreading into the I-35 area later during the week. And wow, look at that, almost a negative tilt trough there. Things very dynamic all of next week. And then we'll have cold air spreading in over the weekend, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. And then things will quiet down a bit. And here's the next weather maker coming in around the 20th, 29th. So we'll put that together with the surface chart and just go over this very quickly. There's the remains of Irma. So that'll disappear. Here comes the Canadian front. Main polar front boundary should be up in this area right here. And then later next week, you can see things getting very active. For Monday and Tuesday, things shift to the west. Here comes that Pacific front. That's coming together. And it looks like we got the remains of something coming through northern Mexico. Where did that come from? Okay, that was the remains of an old hurricane. Let me take a look out there, see what's going on in the East Pacific. It's going to be one of these. I'm guessing it's probably the remains of this. Because at this time we don't really have very much going on out there. So yeah, that's going to be kind of a ways down the down the line, but the remains of something coming up from the Gulf of California around the 17th and 18th. And that'll be crossing the Rockies and arriving probably in West Texas. And likewise, just, the same as with hurricanes, there's a cone of possibilities that it could move through. So possibly something like that, anywhere from Kansas up to West Texas, Southwest Texas, and even up to Nebraska, we could see a chance of heavy rain as the remains of that system crosses the Rockies. And then after that, we're going to see the main front emerging. Much different change for the 20th and 21st. And here's that severe weather coming up for the 21st, 22nd. And looks like a bit of an MCS moving through the I-35 corridor on the 21st and 22nd. Polar surge coming down to the south, the 540 line coming into Montana. And that'll give us kind of our first taste of winter, or maybe fall. Very cool fall-like weather spreading through the central and eastern U.S. around the 25th and 26th. And here comes another shot of cold air coming in from the Pacific on the 28th. Okay, so that's about it for here. And Ryan says the Coast Guard and Air Force finishing evacuations of U.S. citizens from the Virgin Islands. Crazy weather in San Francisco last night. Couple hours of strong thunderstorms rolled through the area. Yeah, let's see where that came from. There is some sort of low pressure there on the west coast there. And indeed, going back, let me bring this back a little bit. We'll go to last night and bring up the charts for the western coast. And it does look like some sort of low pressure system, mostly an upper level system right there off the California coast. Very little reflection at the surface. And I'll see if I can bring that up on the polar orbiter data. September 12th. All right, yeah, it does look a little bit stormy there in California. I mean, skies are kind of clear, but there are a few anvils. Some showers over the higher elevations there. And then earlier today from the Terra imagery. Yeah, these look like kind of like localized showers and storms. There's a bit of it there over the Stockton area. And here in Texas, pretty clear. And then we go a little bit further east, and there's the remains of Irma, and we saw that on the opening clip. Those bands moving from right to left, kind of spreading in from the northeast around the circulation of that low pressure area right there in the Mississippi and Alabama area. So we'll pretty much be done with this, and then we'll be looking ahead at fall weather. And wow, look at that little patch of smoke there. That's going to be over Montana. That is some very dense smoke there. Right there. So let me kind of relate that to the surface patterns. We can kind of get an idea where it's headed. And looks like that's going to be kind of in the center of this lee side low over the Rockies, kind of a frontal low right there. So that smoke there, if anywhere, it's going to head to the, just going to continue moving to the east there with the prevailing westerlies. All right, that's all that I've got here, so I'm just going to take it easy for the rest of the night and get caught up in digital atmosphere, which I'm still working on. And this is that program. This is Digital Atmosphere 2.20. And let me see if I can get the radar to work. Going to plot the base reflectivity. So I'm running some tests with this new radar module. And there it is. There's our reflectivity. So very little left. Mostly just an upper level system. Or I should say a mid-level system. But there it is. Just some weak showers across Kentucky. Okay, well, that's it for tonight. Hope you'll have a good evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.